G'day. So I've just pulled up Gates of Hell here on Ultimate Doom Builder. Here's map 1. So a quick run through it. A couple of doorways, a couple of side passages, some elevation changes, and we've actually got a portal, which I didn't realize, which leads through into the underneath section. There it is. So just a couple of things that we can add to this to maybe make it have a little bit more quality of life, or a little bit of extra atmosphere. The first thing that I'd change here is, well, there's a couple of things I noticed actually. There's a couple of weird ways that you've sort of made a few things. So this sector here, because it's not like being used for anything, you can effectively just, it's also flush up with the ceiling. You could just make that an empty sector there like that. And it just tidies that up a little bit. There's no more of that sort of mess up above there. So when it comes to quick quality of life changes that'll make it feel a little bit nicer, the best thing you can do is probably lighting, and you can be really particular and methodical about it. You can, put in lamps and then make all weird sectors to just make it look like that those lamps are lighting up certain areas of the room. But you don't even need to be like that meticulous when it comes to Doom, because it's such an abstract sort of game. So we could just insert a line here, and we can sort of just say, let's just make some dark corners in this room. Maybe just even slip it across there, and then back into sector mode. Excuse me. I've got a key bound to just quickly flood select any sectors, so I can just put my mouse over it, then hit that button, and it'll just select them. So I'm just going to grab them all here, and then I'm just going to hold down Control and scroll down with my mouse. And I can just darken these two sort of sides of the room up. And if I wanted to see how that's looking as I'm doing it, I can just pop into there. Same thing, hold down Control, up and down. And that just adds a little bit of extra sort of atmosphere to the room. I'll probably darken these ones a little bit as well, just for the sake of it. That way when you exit this room, you'll be exiting into a brighter room, and that contrast will feel a little bit nicer. The exit itself, I mentioned that it's flush against the wall, so if you just add a little bit of an indent here, so just going into vector mode, just going to pop a little dent there. Might even make that a sector itself. Don't necessarily have to do that. We'll do the same on the other end. It just feels like the door will then exist within a door jamb kind of thing, more so than just being a piece of wallpaper, as I mentioned. Always good to flip line defs to the direction, pointing out towards the side that's going to be used. It doesn't always matter, but it can be helpful, especially in in some cases where you can only activate that front line def. So you've actually activated player can use from backside to get around that, So you've made this a door generic, which is fine. I don't often use the generic ones. And this one doesn't have a when player presses use button thing on it, so I'd usually have that on there, just to make sure it can be opened. Player presses use, and now it just sort of looks like it's sort of inserted into there somewhere. I would also generally select these and make them a sort of a transition texture, something in between these. There's heaps, especially in OTEX. Top of my head, I don't recall the names of them, but here we go. These kinds of these kinds of iron ones I like. So they just give it a little bit of pop, make it pop out a little bit. Do the same on the other. So what I've done there is I've just pressed Control C, copy it, and then I've got middle mouse button select to just paste it. Just paste it onto these walls here. Push them across a little bit, just with the left and right arrow. That's about all I do with that. But then one other thing, I'm just getting underneath the door here. I'll lift it up. You'll see how those it moves with it. These little door tracks. So I'll just hit L while I'm facing them, and then I'll just plonk them down to be unpegged. That way they'll stay the same as they're going up and down. You might also benefit from grabbing these. The standard is just going into the the Doom 2 textures or whatever. Just going for door track. It is. And page down. We'll just knock it down to the base there. Cool. There's one door done. I'd do the same for this one. Quickly pop it all together. Plonk it out. Square them off a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Pop a line across these, just into line def mode. So the reason I usually do that is because often I would have the ceiling up a little bit higher, so you'd have like a little door jamb or whatever up the top there. Can be whatever you want it to be, but yeah, I would usually have your ceilings just a little bit higher than your doorways. Just paste those on there. Same on the other side. Pop those on there. Just to tweak that a little bit. Cool. And then once again, just grab this from over here. Grab that. We'll see. Pop it on each of those. Lower line def unpegged on each of them. Shortcut is L. Close the door back up. Double check the controls for this as well. When player presses U is repeatable from the backside. That's fine as well. Cool. I don't know, maybe I'd just bump this up a little bit so it looks a bit more like it's part of the rest of it. Sometimes I'd also put a lip on the bottom just to help separate as well, but in this case I'd just leave it as is. This is a nice gruesome room. I don't know how into GZ Doom and all its fancy bits and pieces you are, but you could give it some mood lighting or something if you wanted to play with dynamic lights. But in this case, we might just once again play with those shadows. So one thing that's good to do is have like a transition shadow. So I'll choose both of these or all of these all of these here. Hold down Control, drag it down 3 or 4, uncheck these two, drag it down another 3 or 4, and then it's just darkens into a shadowy room. Once again with this room, I'll just fix that up a little bit. Cool. I would maybe make the sides, a bit dimmer. Just go from each side there. Backspace to cancel what I was just doing. There we go. Grab each of those. Because I want to just even out that lighting a bit, I'll just drop this down about 3. So it's a bit dimmer, but there's still that transition through there. As you're coming in through this way, I would probably make an interim texture somewhere here. So just put a couple of vertices there, and then jump into line def mode, grab each of them. Again, any of those sort of support beam textures or anything like that is pretty useful here. Drop this back down. These will be about 16 apart each, so maybe just use one of them. There we go. And I think it'd probably look better if there was one on the other side as well. So once again, make them 16. Copy there, paste it there. this case I'll just have to push that across with the arrow keys. Cool. As you come down here, so this was a little bit jarring as well. Also see that it's not aligned, so just hold your mouse over any of the textures and hit Control A. It'll just line it all up nicely. Just makes it look a little bit fresher or professional or something, I don't know. This is already 16, so I might just use that as our replacement. I'll just use this same texture again. Pop that there. And I'd probably on this wall do another one there. Pop that there. It just sort of defines it a little bit more. Again, just some light variation. One thing we can do here is, so if you have a bright area and you want to transition it to a darker area, you can drop this down to the darkness you want it to be, say 120, 130 here, somewhere there, and then choose the lightest area and then select all the textures, all the sectors down to that darker area, and we have a shortcut sector brightness tool here where you can just press the G button, click that, and it'll just split that up so it's nicely evenly darkened out. Just saves a lot of time, and then that makes that corridor look a little bit more ominous. In here it sort of makes sense to me that as you go from a larger area to a more crowded area, that'd probably be a bit darker, so I'd probably darken that up as well. And again, there's a transition here between sort of textures. It's actually the same texture, I think, but it's just aligned lower. So you could either do Control A here and just align it all up and let that all be how it is, or you could once again put some some bars along here. These are just sort of the quick sort of bang for your buck little tips and tricks to make it look nicer with little effort. This looked a little bit overfilled. That might be what you're going for. That could be perfectly fine. I'd just probably leave it at 2, just to make it a little bit less sort of random. That's fine. When you're coming to steps, you might want to have distinct textures for your steps. There are actually step textures as well in the original Doom 2 WODs. Helps define it a little bit, but then you'd have to go around and fix it up as need be. Just to break it up a little bit once again. Some of the little things I like to do is anytime I do have any sort of different transitions like steps, once again just comes back to that, add supports, add runners, add little things like that. One nice thing with GZ Doom is you can use these wall textures for your floors as well. Sometimes when I have a runner coming up like on an up to an elevated platform, I would also make it just come along the floor as well, just like that, and then sort of just has that continuation, and it helps break up the room again as well. Again, I'd do a little bit of darkness, make it feel more like there's sort of these darkened sort of corners in each of these rooms. You'll notice I'm not even worrying too much about getting the exact same levels of brightness and stuff here. Doom's pretty forgiving with that kind of thing. You don't have to be perfect or particular. You can still get a good result. As this is a transition corridor, I'd probably just, separate a little bit. And again, darken passageway halfway through it. That up. Cool. I like your use of all the hanging corpses and things like that. That's good fun. This is going to come into a bright area again when you're dealing with portals. Got to remember that the other end of the portal needs to be, well, doesn't need to be, but it'll have a different set of values and stuff. In that case, this case, it'll be fine. Once again, I liked these eyes. You can see here we get some textures aligned again. Just Control A, it just aligns all the textures. It's a great button to just spam over and over again. Control A whenever you make any changes. Now these eyes, I like them. I just wanted to highlight them. So what I would do maybe is just put some circles around them. 3, 4. And again, I'm going to do the darkness and the light level changes a little bit. I'm going to drop that down a little, drop down this one more, but these eyes are going to be highlighted with their glow. Drop that down a little bit. One thing I noticed was I didn't realize this was the finish until after I pressed the button, so you might want to just have a little exit sign here. I'll just do 32 by 32 by 8 by 8, drop it down, and there should be an exit. This one. Exit sign thing there. Move them across a little. The same sort of grey on the bottom. Sometimes you can just get away with using the same texture and just hiding some of it. Cool. That way you just know it's the exit. That's all I'd probably change for the first map. Just, quick changes. So, Control S, save that one. We'll open up map 2. So, map 2, I think I mentioned you're getting into more, playing around more with your ceilings and things, which is really nice. It's good to see you've done the extra detail here. Sometimes it's nice to sort of inset these a little bit and then maybe just, throw something in there. Just once again, it's just the added detail, but it's good that you've even got that there. It's just extra little touches that aren't necessary, but still good to have. Put some nice big grates here. If you wanted to, I don't know if it's your intention or not, but you could resize these a little bit to just line up a bit nicer. But maybe you wanted to make sure it was nice and visible down there, so you could probably leave it like that. Again, we can use that gradient lighting here. So there's a couple of ways we can split this up, but all we really need to do is maybe throw a whole bunch of lines in here. Then maybe we make this one at the end, holding down Control and scrolling down. 0 light, probably same with these, so it's all consistent. 0, and then once again, starting with the lightest texture, lightest sector, finishing with the darkest one, hitting that button up there, and then that just fades it off into black down there, so it's a bit more eerie. Cool. So, room like this, might do a little bit more with the ceiling myself, but personal preference. One thing I'd like to do always is have a bit of variation of light. Once again, not even conforming to any sense of reality. I'm just going to have some, if it's placed to a wall, it's a little bit darker. Pop it about there. So I'll just grab all of those sectors there. Zoom them down a bit. Just to make it feel a little bit, more atmospheric. Make this even darker still. Don't mind that that's a little bit lighter, but what I'd probably do, just to help hide the fact that there's little bright squares, is I would set them further underneath and further up above. Grab whatever texture and fill in those little bits. Nobody's going to really stare down there. It also makes your place feel a little bit more, I don't know, three-dimensional. Got little runners going up and down. So this room, I don't know, just split it up a little bit again with light. Bring that down to, I don't know, 120. So there's no sort of indicator that this is a secret door. Sometimes you might want to hint to your player that there is a door there, so you could do that by changing that to a similar texture or having a texture offset or something, so it's, you know, off a little bit. Or you could do something like build a little thing around it and have this sector just do some weird light effect. So maybe this spot here does a little bit of a phased light effect. Then that'll light up for the players to help indicate that that's possibly something worth exploring. Now the other thing is this door opens this entire thing, and that poor Pinky is a little bit squashed in there until the door is opened, and it's a one-use only door. I actually opened up once and then I couldn't open it up again. Maybe that's your intention. Be a bit brutal with your secrets. If you miss out once, you miss out. But I would probably allow it to be opened multiple times. So I'd just sort of tidy this up a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a great thing about Doom is that it actually looks more interesting if it's not all evened out usually. But what I would do is I would just make this tagged as 2, which will be your door. Edit this a little bit. Play presses use repeatable action. Sector 2. The good thing about doors, I actually usually just use door raise. You don't even need to have a tag on it. If there's a tag of 0, it'll just assume the sector behind the tagged line def will be the door. So I'll pop that onto normal. Close delay, Doom default. Repeatable whenever the player presses use. And the other thing that I'd like to do is have the same on the other side here. Just because if they accidentally go in there and then don't leave in time, they would be locked in there forever. 0, normal, repeatable, great. And then I'd actually get rid of the tags on both of those, and that should work just fine. I'd leave this to be sort of there-ish. The door will only open to the height of the lowest sector next to it, so it'll only open to here. These are already unpegged, which is nice, so that's not going to do any weird things there. I will put a door track on there though. Track. One of those is a backside def. Oh, no, it's not. My mistake. It's the lower ones that I want, isn't it? Okay. I did notice as well. This is an actual sector, so you can see it's just been raised up from the ground there. Once again, because we're not going to do anything with it, and there's no benefit it being an actual sector, we'll just hit delete and we'll just make it a blacked out sector, blacked out section. Close it up. Oh, do need to do that now that I've changed it. There we go. That's all closed up. Oh, better just put any generic thing on there. Very good. Might just make this a have some light effect as well. Why not? Darken it down a little bit. Cool. So then you wander in through here. Probably change these walls as well. Once again, just breaking it up, having those between textures, between rooms and transitions and things like that. Even do this. Maybe pop it up a little bit. Control A to align it all. again. Maybe even on the top. Control A, Control A. Good. G. Good. So now we are here at the doors once again. Just check those. Repeatable. It's a bit of a funny one. They opened fine without the play procedures on there. Might be something to do with the generic doors, I'm not sure. But locked with a red key card. The way that I usually make these, I don't know which way is better. Generic doors are probably fine. Once again, I use the door raise. Just choose my speed, normal. I usually like fast, but normal's fine. Close delay, doom, default, all of that. And you can just choose the locks here as well. So you can just say red card or skull on that, and that's done both of them at once. Tagged as 0, so it'll just do the one behind it. That's great. Got a nice big lava pool here. We'll probably just have a transition texture here somewhere. I might even have some beams halfway in here. I've heard some people say rule of thumb is like every 256 units of a flat wall, you should break it up with a beam or a change of texture or something. I think that's a fair rule of thumb. But again, personal preference. The more you know, the more you can get away with, and you can break those rules. There's those supports. There we go. Keeping with the theme. Pop them up a little bit. I'll probably even darken this up just for some contrast. So when you walk through that red door, you see this darkened area up the top there. But the other thing I would do is then lighten the switch itself up, because that's an important thing to highlight. I'll put a little bit of a beam on either side there. And the other thing I would do is down to 8. Pop an exit sign in so they know it's the exit. That's their goal. Pardon me. I like to just put little beams again on each side of them. Maybe I go too crazy with the beams sometimes, I don't know. Cool. But it also helps split up, you know, that transition between your concrete texture there and the other wall texture. Where am I? Cool. Same thing again, I would continue the beam sort of effect along here. Maybe put them in all the corners. One up here, 16, 16. One thing you can do with these sort of side ones here is there's a button that you can bind to move your grid to a different angle, so that you know you're going 16 degrees no matter which sort of direction you're going along. It's just an easy way of getting those different angled textures lined up nicely. So now I know that that's 16, that's 16, these are 16. I'll pop some nice little bits on there. Cool. Good. Maybe that spot as well. Excellent. And now once again, my general sort of thought is if it's a small cramped spot, it's usually going to be darker. I'll probably darken all of these down to the same as this, which is 112. Go. And they come out to this nice lighter area. Other thing you can do with this sort of lighting thing is if we were to have, for example, I don't know, we'll stick a light on the roof up here somewhere. See what we can find. GH, just, you know, whichever one of these ones to inset them. So then presumably This would all be light right under here. I'd probably even make it max brightness. These would be pretty bright as well because that's just, on the top of those carts there. And then behind it, we'll probably have a bit of a shadow. So we might line up something, about this big. Doesn't even have to be exact. Just make that really dark. And then it's sort of like, this light is casting a shadow over here. And then as we get further away from the light, we'd probably make it a bit darker as well. Stairs, just drop it down a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much. Just those variations that help a lot. I'd even make that a bit darker. Going up there. Control A just to align these textures here. I'll do the same on this side. Just smooths out the wall there. And again, we're transitioning up here. I'd slap some more beams. Why not? Put some in the corners over here as well. Maybe even one in the middle here. Grab that texture, Control C. Middle mouse button for me is to paste them on. I think I rebound that because I use it so often. One in the middle there. A couple things at the end there. If you find all your things are getting in the way, you can just press T a couple of times. It'll hide them. And it just cycles through. So the first one just shows you the things, second one shows you their hitboxes, third one gets rid of them so you can work with the walls. Cool. It's good. I'd probably darken this spot a little bit because it's again lower. Same with over in here. Make it more of an ominous entryway leading into here. Goes down. Push those up. Some people might think this is a bit overkill, getting all these little finer points down, but I think it's the details that you don't necessarily notice that make the most difference in how your map looks. Done here. Yep. That's all fine. Cool. Once again, these are flush with the wall, but at least they are sort of split by the yellow lines here. These are door generics, which again is fine, but I like the door rays. Yellow. Normal, don't need a tag. Good. Pop up here, jump down, grab the key, then out you go. That's cool. Nice little channel up there. If you wanted to go a little bit above and beyond. Build a little square around this, so you do it with these sort of distinct angles as well. Then Cacodemon, we'll hide him. Got this nice little surrounding spot that we can pop down a little bit, inset it, and then give it some kind of a texture. Keeping with the theme, might just use one of these guys. Next one up. So as we've been using, same one. So the beauty of GZ Doom is we can choose these, realign them. So if I can't align it nicely this way, I can click into here and just move this 90 degrees, and that'll just push it the direction I want it to go. And that's all well and good. This one's already the correct direction. Just move it out like that. Same with this side. And this one I'll need to do in here. Pop, just like that. Put that on the sides as well. Just gives a little sort of, I don't know, chimney kind of effect. It's probably, you know, more work than is necessary just for a little thing, but I like to do it. Very good. So that's all I'd do with this one. Lava pit's fine. Cool. Save that one. Jump to the next map. So this one, you've got these sort of channels of sky, which is just the sky touching the tops of these bricks. So I'm just going to put them right back up the top. And so if you wanted to get some nice sort of lower down sky over here, one of the standard ways of doing it is to just sort of create a little wall or barrier around your outside area. Do it to like there somewhere. I'll actually raise that to, I don't know, maybe 128, something like that. Give it a texture, like this brick wall texture thing here. They won't really see the top of this, but I like to just make sure it's textured as well. Then this comes down, so it's at least flush with this. I might even put it a little bit deeper in. Same on the other side. Made a pretty drawing. There we go. I didn't realize this was also a an actual full sector. So once again, because nobody's going to interact with this entire area up here, we can remove that and just have this and have the illusion of a big, big room, big whatever over here. So these guys over here on either side, we'll bring that down to there. Put some pink on the side of this, pink on the side of that. I might even make it go all the way back somewhere. Side. This all the way over here. Great. So we've got this whole thing here. So we've got the playable area inside this barrier of brick, and then what we want to do is make a new dummy sector outside of all of this. Just rounding it all. Yep. Way up to around there. Grab it. It's already the sky texture. And just page down to make it come down. And there you go. It looks like it's all sky all on the outside there. And then this doesn't get blocked away, so you can see this enormous, enormous skin building looming over there. That was about all for this map, I think. You're very generous with the shells here, fighting off this Baron. Well, you could, if you wanted to get into it, you could decide, I want east to be the direction the sun's shining in, so everything that goes this way, everything that goes this way will be shadowed out a little bit. Get pretty intricate with your shadows, but takes a lot of time if you start doing it too much, but we'll just do some rough ones like that. This was up as well, so we'll just put that to, yeah. Yep. And this wall over here will also be a shadow, so let's just block it off to either side. It'll also cast a shadow, sorry. So that's a shadow. This is all shadow. This is all shadow. This is all shadow. Don't worry about up there. That's a shadow. Lower that down to, let's say, 128. Far enough out, is it? Down. There we go. And then there will be a spot here as well. That should be shadow. 28. Okay. It gives the impression that these are, actual structures that, getting in the way of the light wherever it's coming from. All inside there would be dark as well, wouldn't it? Maybe up until here, this would be top. Sun would get through to there as well. Something like that. Yeah. Just those little details. Now, this room in here, just flip that tag. It's a red door, I believe. Red skull. Yep. I'll just put this as a door. Use repeatable. Backside's fine. Door raise. Red skull. Fine. So this is where the map ends and transitions. I'll just flip that over so you don't have to worry about the backside thing. So when the player walks over it, that'll end the map. It was a little bit odd sort of just walking into this dead end. So one thing that might be nice is to just again do that light transition. Just to show you another thing that you can do. There's another shortcut that's similar to the light transition, which actually works on sector heights. So if we pop this down, we're going to make a staircase. So that'll be our lowest one. Where did I go? So our lowest is over there. Our highest will be like here somewhere. So we can go. So we'll drop this down to 0 as well. So it's black. So then we'll grab that. Lightest and highest, darkest and lowest. So we'll go sector brightness, and then we'll go stair gradient down. Oh, didn't work. Alright, let's have another look at that. All of those. Oh, that was a ceiling height gradient. Alright, we'll do the floor height gradient. So we've actually made the ceiling up here a gradient as well, I think, but that's fine. There we go. We've made this as a staircase with a quick button press as well. We'll just put in some textures along there. Not that you'd see half of these, but still to do. Great. And there's no need for us to fill this in, but what we will also do is this down so that there is a ceiling. Well, and just in this case, I'll just use that. Align all these textures, make sure everything's nice. Good. It's always good to go around and just hit Control A everywhere, just to make sure it's all lined up nicely. Cool. That's all I do with that map. Save it. Move on. Final map. Okie dokie. So you have in this map a couple of line portals. So this one that transitions between here and there actually tripped me up for a little bit. I thought it was a larger area than it was, which is cool. I like that. It makes it feel a little bit trippy, a little bit sort of confusing in not a bad way. I think I mentioned these stealth monsters can be quite controversial. I would usually just leave them as standard, especially if that's all that you're being subjected to as soon as you come in. It might make the player feel a little bit cheated if they die to them because they didn't even know they were there. The concept of challenging is always balancing a fair fight between tricky mechanics and stuff, and yeah, it might just feel a little bit unfair. So I'd just leave them as is. Or, you know, you could have a stealth monster somewhere later on and then slowly introduce them. So, you know, they can face off against one, so they know, oh, in this map there's probably going to be more of those. And then you can slowly like feed some more through. This line portal here, I believe this ceiling is at height 8, but the other one must be a little bit higher, height 0. So was that 8 or minus 8? Let me just double check. Ugh, lagging up. Height 8 there. Okay, so you'd want them to be both height 8 or both height 0, just to avoid getting that weird sort of clip effect at the top of the transition. You made these ones up here perfectly fine. They seem to be working well. That's one thing I didn't mention in map 2 is these sort of sharp edges. Doesn't matter here because it's a line, you know, line portal anyway, but you know, I just square them off a little bit. Helps make it look a bit more, bit less jarring. But yeah, I think I mentioned in my notes, like it's more important in like buildings and less important in like organic things and nature and stuff. So yeah, just something to be mindful of. Cool. So the only thing in this I would change, I don't know why there's these guys here. Anyway, things I would change in here is probably just light levels again. Fine. This was a bit of a challenging fight, but that's fine. You know, it's an end boss, so it should be a little bit challenging. There's plenty of room to maneuver around and dodge the rockets in here and everything like that, so that's fine. These open with killing monsters. That's a fun thing to play around with. It's only usable in UDMF, I believe. I could be wrong there. Again, with these here, since they're not going to come down or be used as a sector or whatever, they can just be blacked out. Just makes it, I believe it helps, you know, not, it doesn't have to process those extra areas, right? But that might just be more of a personal preference thing, I don't know. Somebody smarter than me can tell you. And again, let's get some funky lighting going on. We'll make the light sort of spill out roughly from the doorway, maybe. Fun. Darker there. That's nice and bright. Some nice dark corners over here. Again, I'm not even making them even. Just give some extra dimensionality. Other thing I'd do in this area is pop some medkits down, but that's again a personal preference thing. Maybe you want it to be extra challenging, you know, and that's perfectly fine as well. Transition down there, that's fine. I'd keep that the same color. I mean, light. Maybe I'll put some darkness over the back here. Might want to add some extra things in here to make it more interesting. Maybe a change in, you know, height level for some of it. A little backpack or something. Just more things for the player to do, to pick up and explore with and check out. Control A, just double check, you know, all that's aligned. That's alright. This sort of transition was a little bit of an odd one as well. So probably would even that out a little bit. I always find iron or steel or metal is a good transition between flesh and anything else. So those metal support beams I've been using this entire time might be nice. Or these, you know, rusty ones might be good too. We'll just use these. just as a transition, just to split it up a little bit more. I'd even run some along the bottom probably. Something like that. Cool. Yeah. Again, just some extra light levels and stuff, you know. Just randomly make this a little bit darker, this one over here. Doesn't have to be consistent or anything. Split half of this up. Yeah, anyway, that's all the info, or all the changes that I would probably sort of make on a quick glance. Hopefully that's helpful in some way. I'm not sure if it is or not. And if you've got a different idea of how to do things, the best thing to do is ignore advice and just do what you want to do. Because end of the day, it's whatever's fun for you. Alrighty, bye. I thought we'd just have a quick playthrough of it now that it's changed around. So see here, I've messed up some little lighting there, so I'd go back through and I'd fix that up. Must have been this sector here. But this room's a little bit darker and more ambient at the moment. Come out into a slightly lighter room. Pop into here. Again, those light changes. Makes it a little bit more interesting, you know. There's nooks and crannies and things to explore. Really helps with the just that those lighting changes really help change things around. Good. Clearly an exit. On to the next. Goes away into darkness. Oops, I bumped that up somehow. Takes that shotgun. Oh, let's try that again. The light levels can also serve to highlight things, so these are nice and bright in the darkness, so we know that it's easy to spot there. Draws the player towards things. This is a very obvious secret down. Maybe that's a little bit too obvious, but nonetheless. Okay, can now get into here nicely and get back out alright. I'd probably make that sector dark as well. That's why it's important to play through your maps though, I guess, and test to see if I messed this up somehow, probably because of these little side things. That's fine, we'll click through, we can fix it up in a later edit. So that change in lighting in this room has made it much more sort of interesting. There's a weird little thing to go in up there, there's a light over here, there's shadows being cast. Helps hide the spectre a little bit as well. Yeah. Grab that, pop on down here. This will probably be broken as well if it's the same issue. So these little side defs just being a little funky, ruining everything. But we can fix that up at a later thing. Anyway, onto the exit. There it is. Pop on through. Next map. Outside now. You clearly see all the sky. All these shadows are really, just helping with atmosphere. Probably maybe, cut this shadow short so that wall stays bright. Or in UDMF you can actually lighten up the wall itself, which is nice. Grab this. Come on out. I'm just going to go grab his key and leave him be. There we go. We didn't unpeg these side textures, so that'd be another thing to do. Off into the last map. There we go. There's a hot start. But at least you can see them immediately and be prepared and react. So all these lighting changes again made this a much more interesting sort of corridor to wander through. And now you're back to the way you were. Hop on down here. Adjusting that height has fixed up that little weirdness that was going on there. The type of portal you're using might be preventing the archvile from seeing you here. There's different types. There's interactive ones that allow them to see you better. But that's just something to play with. It comes with time. A little bit more, just has more depth once again to it. Put some health to replenish yourself with before your big battle. And the darkness on the sides really help focus into the center where your bad guy is. Yeah, anyway, we don't have to kill him. That's all I got for you. Cheers, mate.